Okay, I am back, and that was really scary, guys. I don't know what happened over there, what happened, but hopefully you guys will find me over here. Kane, like, wow, I have no idea what you did, bro. I have no idea what you just did. So anyway, let's get back to what we were talking about. I feel so lonely now. No one's here. Hello, guys. I am back. Not sure what happened. That was like post meta. But that was pretty scary. And hopefully, you guys are coming over. I'll put on some music until y'all show up, hopefully. Thank you. Thank you, sweet and salty. I appreciate it. All right. Let me pull this pic down here. I appreciate it. Okay, that was crazy town. That was like seriously crazy town. Um, so yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, what do you it was hard for me to read all the chat. Normally I'm able to keep up with it. There was a big group. I think a lot of people were sort of they're waiting over there all I don't know how to like switch. I'm clearly not a maven with this with this like StreamYard stuff. I'd like to invite someone else up. Hopefully they won't cause as much mayhem as Keen did. But I can definitely drop a link here, which anybody who would like to come on up and talk and tell me what's going on, what they think about all of this. What do you guys think about AR Hayes and Pavarotti? This is, this is an open panel. Anybody that wants to come up and talk and tell me what's going on. I had Kane come up because I know I'm pretty sure he lives in like the hurricane path, and a lot of people are worried about him. And I follow him because he's funny and unique. So, yeah, I agree. I agree, Claire. Yeah, I agree with this. I do. That's kind of where I was coming from because I mean, if you watch the whole thing, which AR Hayes has taken a lot of his stuff down, which I feel bad that he took it down. I don't think he needed to do that, but that's his, if that's what he wants to do. Um, I think he felt, like maybe it was better off to just back away from this situation and um and not sort of inflame it any further. Like I said, though, I watched a lot of stuff. I watched all the stuff he put up, and I honestly did not see anything that I was just. I mean, I think he was a little sensitive. I haven't watched them, but it sounds like clicks and views. Yeah, yeah, Callie. Yep. Yeah, and again, it's hard to know. He was proven wrong. Yeah, I mean, definitely that's a possibility. Maybe he was like, "Oh shit, like this wasn't true." For sure. That's definitely a possibility. Maybe he felt like um uncomfortable about it or something or embarrassed, I don't know. But I don't know, did you think he was like coming off too harsh on Pavarotti? Sweet and salty, do you feel like you found me? Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for finding me. I'm sorry. I that got crazy at the end there, guys. I honestly have no idea what he did, but that was insane. That was so insane. It reminded me of Bo Burnham. If you guys haven't seen Bo Burnham Inside, it's really good. It's very moving. It's sad and funny at the same time. And it's exactly like that. So anyway, um my other phone doesn't want to turn on, so this is my other trap zone. Okay. I don't know who this is. Is this Rolomoto the actual Rolomoto? I'm not sure. Uh, yeah, that was crazy, right? It had like my voice echoing in the background. I was just like, holy shit. Um, but yeah, thanks for coming over, guys. I did drop a link if anybody wants to come up. Okay, yeah, it is him. Okay. If anybody wants to come up and talk and about anything really, but um yeah, Twilight Zone, exactly. Exactly. He was like, "Yeah, let me just," he was in his garage drinking, it looked like he was drinking coolant or something. He's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna add this," and then all of a sudden, I'm, like, getting in like, taken back into some kind of a vortex or something, I don't know. It was crazy town. But, yeah. And I don't know if you guys what do you guys think about the Gonsalveses? I did a stream on that, and I know that that's a very divisive issue for a lot of people, and a lot of people get really upset with the Gonsalveses. They feel like, they're Kool-Aid, yeah. They feel like they're grifting, right? And yeah, yeah, that's when everything started to go dark, Kelly. That picture's when everything really just went dark. Um, but yeah, what do we have over here? Up, what the fuck? Oh, here, yeah, I got them right here. Here you go. Those are my go fuck yourself glasses. I really only put these on for special occasions, like when I'm really just like I'm done. I've had it. Can we talk about the crazy complicated theory? Yeah, sure. So, Occam's razor, right? This was something that was going around in the true crime community a few weeks back, if you guys remember. I think Harsh and JB Gunner kind of spearheaded it. And Occam's razor is basically whatever the conclusion that you come to with the least amount of suppositions is the typically the correct one. Occam's razor. Um, in terms, the guy in that movie. Oh, really? I don't remember. I don't think I saw that movie, honestly. But anyway, let's get back to this for a minute because, guys, I can see a rabbit and I'll go off. So I want to try to stay focused for a second here, just for a minute. Um, so Pop's theory, right? And I don't know his theory nearly enough to be. I'm not an expert on his theory or anything, but I understand like kind of the gist of it, which is that um, the fact that there were arrests made, and it's hard to ignore this. Okay, it's hard to ignore that Maddie Mogen's stepmother and Xana Kernodle's mother were both arrested very close to the time of these murders. It's hard to ignore that and say, well, does this have something to do with it? And that's kind of where that whole theory starts, right? Without those arrests, you don't really have anywhere to go looking after that, right? And so the fact that these arrests occurred is one piece of it. And then the other piece that draws into that theory is the many arrests that were made regarding drug trafficking. It seems like Idaho has a huge drug problem, like major. I mean, I think the whole country has an opioid epidemic right now and drug problem, but Idaho like really bad, and they made some major busts there. And then on top of it, there was this white supremacist group that was taken down as well, and it was I think it's the Aryan Brotherhood. I'm not entirely sure, but I think they also, I don't know if they got taken down, but they also had a big arrest. And so when you start tying all these things in together, then you can start looking at theories as to how it could it could involve these kids in the house. So it's not an Occam's razor for sure. It's definitely not. It doesn't mean it's not possible, but it definitely requires a lot of sort of suppositions, and we don't have any of those actual facts. I mean, Pavarotti does lay out a lot of court documents, and I believe that, the timelines and stuff he's laying out, probably makes sense. I haven't looked at all of them. I just sometimes I'll just, I can assess based on who's talking, like, yeah, this person seems credible. I think he's done a lot of work and he's laid out the timelines. Um, so, he in his mind, all these timelines come together, and that's why they ended up getting, killed, because it was payback, right? So whoops, hold up. The other ones, most of the, oh, here, hold on. Uh, most of the rest he's trying to tie in were in Washington and then Southeast Idaho. None were related to the Panhandle or Moscow area. He also thinks Brian and Brent were buying drugs from Emma. Okay. See, yeah, and that's another big that's like another huge theory, right? The whole Brent Kopaka theory. And honestly, the reason why there are a couple reasons why I spent time on Brent Kopaka and why I've kind of thought about him a lot. One is, I don't know if you guys remember, but when it came out that he was killed or whatever, uh, a- at least me, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people were like, "Holy shit, is that the guy?" Because it was so close in proximity to the murders, and they hadn't caught anyone yet, and that sort of thing, right? And then on top of it, the secrecy, again with the secrecy, guys, with Brent Kopaka, so much secrecy surrounding that case. And it's weird. I mean, I think it's hard to say that whole situation with Brent Kopaka wasn't odd. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the footage, I think Lana from Truth and Transparency, she's always on this shit like white on rice. She got the footage, and it's just, and I'm not saying it's not real or whatever. I'm just saying it's strange. Why did they kill him? Like, why did they have to kill the guy? Like, they couldn't smoke him out or do something else. It was just very odd to me, the way that went down. And then I know people disagreed. A lot of people disagreed with what I said about the Brent Kopaka that his friend is showing, and the Brent Kopaka that's in the video at the motel, who looks like he's high and in a crisis, aren't the same people. I did that half and half thing where I said this is not Brent Kopaka, and people are like, "Oh, but when you age or drugs and this and that, your face can change. A lot of things on your face can change, but the points between the eyes right here, they're not going to change." Okay. They're not going to change. And they don't have the same equidistance between the eyes. They're just not the same people. And why are they doing that? Like, why? And then they have his friend come out of the blue, trying to, what was the his friend's name? I'm blanking on his friend's name now, guys. Brent Kopaka's best friend, the one who's into all that horror and stuff. What was his name? Uh yeah, I agree. I don't think they were the same people. I don't. They never looked like the same people to me, but when I put it up on that little app that I have that analyzes, it's not the same person. The nose is totally different. The eyes are different. It's not the same person. Duncan. Yes, yes, Duncan. Thank you, Darren. Yeah. All right. So Duncan, this is another thing that's just odd about this case. Okay. And this is another reason why I think there's so many rabbit holes that people go down and everything else. And it's a morbid curiosity. Like, I'm just going to be honest, right? It's a morbid curiosity, because nobody wants this to happen to themselves or their loved ones. It's terrifying that this happened, that somebody went in and did this to 4 kids, right? So, you know, Darren Duncan is an interesting cat. All right. Number one, did you know he has a podcast? He has a podcast. I think it's called House of a Thousand Horrors or something like that. And I listened to an episode where his friend actually interviewed him. And when he interviewed him, it turns out that Darren Duncan has like a whole slew of half brothers and sisters or something because his mother was married a few times. And Duncan is not like his biological father's last name. It was like one of the third or fourth husband of his mother. And his mother was involved in um her name was she was involved in this. She's not a murderer or anything, and neither is Darren, but his like I think like one of his mother's ex-husbands was murdered. They did an episode on it on Snapped, which is weird too. Because why is everybody in this case like connected to some kind of horror shit? Like you've got Darren Duncan, who's completely obsessed with horror and horror movies and all this other stuff. And then you've got Brian Koberger's sister, who was in a horror movie. And well, maybe that's really it, right? Maybe that's really it. Maybe it's not that much, but it's just weird. It's just a very weird thing. Yeah. Also, 1,000 donuts. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, he did seem very paranoid. I mean, when I read some report about Brent where he was talking to a like a manhole cover or something like that. Like he was doing that. And if you saw the video of him when the police came and because he was called, I don't know if he called the police or someone called on him, but he was in a hotel and he was in a crisis. Like whether he was high or he was, having a sort of a mental crisis. Either way, I think he was probably high, but regardless, it was a mental crisis. And I think it's a shame that they didn't take him, to a hospital or something like that. That's just my opinion, but hindsight is 2020. It's really easy to say stuff like that. All right, so here we go. We have a guest. Let's see. He thought a friend was in the manhole. Okay. All right, let's bring you up. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, I can barely. Is this Wimmer?
This is Mike Wimmer. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, Wimmer?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I don't think I've ever been on your show. I've
No, you haven't.
only been in the chat box for a long time.
Yeah. So, what do you think?
Well, I wanted to chime in and say, similar to Pavarotti, I thought Brian was guilty. You know,
Okay.
last 2 years ago, November. Um, but I really wasn't that involved. I was following things, but I thought, wow, I mean, with that many police involved, um, I thought, wow, the FBI got him and he was all the way in Pennsylvania. Um, but as I started watching you guys on YouTube and over on TikTok, I started studying myself. So I looked at everything and then I just changed. I thought, this is just ridiculous. Um,
Hmm.
I don't
Oh,
believe.
they're asking you to speak up a little bit, Wimmer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I messed around with it today. My iPhone is not picking up on sounds, but is that any better?
You guys hear him a little better? I can hear you better. That's for sure. So,
Okay, I'll try to
yeah.
talk real close. But the
So, oh, go
that's
ahead.
all. That's all. I just kind of I changed through studying everything, and then I just got fed up with the police making political moves and Bill Thompson. And
Hmm.
even though everybody seems to say, well, wait for the trial.
Hmm.
It's always this way. I just don't believe that. I think even the gag order, it's like, what do you need a gag order for if you've got the
Hmm.
guy in? I do think they have a circumstantial case in this situation. But
Hmm.
anyway, that's kind of just where I'm coming from. I just wanted to say that.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate the dialogue. I mean, yeah, when it when it first happened for me, I didn't really have an opinion one way or another. I was just like, they caught this guy, and I'm like, oh shit, like that's weird. But then the minute you start looking into it a little further, there's just too many. It's just too many things that are up in the air, and the gag order is a big piece of it. It really is. The gag order, I think, is what has created so much of this, right? So much of what we're doing here.
Yeah, and I don't. Even though I did learn that in Idaho, uh, they can have circumstantial evidence, obviously, uh, in a trial, but they also have hearsay evidence rules. They can have some hearsay. It seems really,
Really.
yeah, it seems outdated, but think about that, on the ranches and gold mining 180 years ago,
Yeah,
there's probably
that's
some
a good
hearsay
point.
that accurate.
Hmm.
So I'm not judging them, but switching back to Kopaka, I of course followed the Brent case because it was so patently obvious that something was going down. But I think there's people in the chat right now that said that Brent may not have been involved. He was just very severely ill and wandering around the streets in Pullman. And it's just really sad.
Hmm.
So, but Pavarotti did point out that they had a court order for a search of his place, and the timing of
Oh.
it is suspicious. Yeah, I did learn that watching Pavarotti,
Hmm.
and so I don't know if the dates are all accurate, but he has pulled in some people that lived right around there, and he has pointed out some things on Linda Lane. That Linda Lane footage is really scary, and there's some
Hmm.
names mentioned, and he's got some people. Farley is one of the
Hmm.
names. I think we all thought it was Charlie.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true. Well, I have the Linda Lane audio that I did, and I've given all my disclaimers on that because I understand that it's not verified footage. Um, but what I hear on the Linda Lane audio is terrifying, right?
Yeah.
So, but I have no idea, if that's can be verified or not. I
Well,
what
I do feel like there is something happening with that CCTV. I don't know if the people are standing right there or if they're over by the house, and it's that the antenna part of the CCTV
Mhm,
is broadcasting what was happening in the backyard of the house.
mhm,
That's what some experts have told me, but
mhm.
I'm willing to be corrected. I mean that,
Sure.
but I some people have told me that Linda Lane is definitely real.
Mhm,
You can see some of the people from the food truck over at Linda Lane and Taylor Avenue. I've been watching Rolo Motto's
mhm.
Taylor Apartments parking lot. That's actual police body cam footage. So I've been watching that even on bigger screens. So anyway,
No, that it's super interesting, and you're, obviously a thoughtful person, and you don't have a dog in this fight. You're just following it like the rest of us, but it's nice to just kind of talk through this stuff. What I don't like is when people are just very dismissive of others or say, those kind of things. To me, that's not productive, right? We can all say we think this or we see that or we hear this, and in my opinion, if anybody in the courts of Idaho wants to get upset, well, they can blame themselves for having this gag order. The gag order has caused a lot of this, in my opinion.
agreed. I totally agree. Like, what would be the big deal? And you
It's
know,
really
uh,
odd.
I mean, do people really have time to create an entire fictitious uh, filming of some of the horrible stuff that happened and put it out on police body cam? And I don't even know if we have the technology to fake it.
Right. Well, it's interesting you bring that up because I've been kind of going back into when this whole Linda Lane footage came out, because my whole thing when it first came out, um, after I was like immediately drawn to hearing, because I heard things immediately, and then I got my, did my whole thing and heard all this stuff. But I'm like, who put this out? And I understand that Veritas Sassy, I don't know how to say it. That was the first channel I saw it, put out on. And then I also noticed that Get a Clue had some footage from earlier on in the day that nobody else had. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but I thought that was strange. I remember a selected few creators were given copies of this Linda Lane footage. Do you remember that?
I certainly do. I hope everyone else does too. I think Get a Clue is the guy who they thought was a retired policeman. And
Oh,
I think the significant thing was that he showed that that's not an Elantra. I think he
right.
went as far as saying it's actually a Ford Focus, which is ironically the exact car down by the fire hydrant, and that's phony police work. I
Mm-hmm,
I think is safe to say. They said they
mm-hmm.
were doing special undercover stuff, but people looked up whether they had undercover cars of that size and model, and they don't. So
No, they
what the
don't, right? There's no record of it,
yeah,
correct?
yeah, so what the heck is going on?
Mm-hmm.
So it may be a very complicated set of all of these things, Farley and Mrs. Kernodle and Maddie's stepmom. I mean, when you guys were talking about it 5 minutes ago, I really remember them saying it was Xana that did the flushing of the 15,000.
Oh, okay.
That was
Mm-hmm.
the big story in the beginning, and that switched. I think when the G's switched, because the G's thought that, remember, Steve said there's no reason for him to go upstairs.
Right. Yep.
That was one of the first significant things he said. So I thought, okay, that's Xana and Ethan, and he doesn't need to go up. So, but it switched, when the emphasis became more on Kaylee, I think, and then Maddie. It kind of changed, and now the dollar amount keeps going up and up. It's 275,000 now.
That's how
And
much they have on their GoFundMe.
no, it was 15,000 in
Oh, for
profit.
the drugs. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
15,000 was flushed, and that they kept raising it, and now it went to a quarter million, and now it's 275, probably because they didn't want a round figure. you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
how much blow was in a Party Central house? I mean,
well, it's kind of interesting, and that was an interesting theory, and honestly, to me, that made like way more sense. That like if someone, I'm not saying it happened, but I'm saying like that made a lot of sense. Like if you did something like that, you're going to get yourself probably killed by some people. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're flushing, I mean, even if it's 20 grand worth of stuff, I mean, people are killing people out here over like a grand. It's really sad. Um, but it's hard to not think drugs don't play some role in this, right? What do you think?
I agree. How could
Yeah.
it not? I mean, I really don't think that one person went in at 4:07 and then was out on Indian Hill Road at 4:20. I mean, I just really don't believe it. Brian doesn't strike me. I know Rolo agrees with this because I've heard him say it in his videos like 10 times. Brian just isn't a killer. He may be a little awkward, but I think he's OCD and maladjusted in some ways. But aren't we all?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
do. I do think he has some personality type situation. I think I did a video on his traffic stop because he reminded me of someone that I knew personally who was one of those types of people who really just doesn't like to be wrong. and wants to always be right. And while he was not disrespectful whatsoever to the police officer, I could see what he was doing with that traffic stop. And it just struck me, it's something that stuck with me, that he's one of these types of people he's got to be right,
Yeah.
and I can be that way sometimes. I've tried to not be that way as I've gotten older, but that can rub people the wrong way, especially in a graduate program and stuff like that. So
Well, I think the comparisons of him to mass murderers is not okay. I mean,
I
again,
don't see it. Yeah, I don't
I
see
don't see
that.
that. I'm willing to be wrong. You
Me
know,
too.
every,
Hmm.
every month or two, somebody comes up with there's going to be a big arrest out of Chicago. The big thing now, today, a woman put out, there's going to be federal charges.
In Chicago, related to this.
Yeah, the idea was his sister, because circling back around to your horror film uh,
Hmm.
topic, the they said that his sister was in Chicago and he went out to a release of her film, and that's when that couple, I think their two attorneys, were unalived. I can't believe
Oh,
I said that word. I said the
yeah, you're
unalived.
not allowed to say unalived on this channel, okay?
Yeah, it's like I've changed. I mean, I've been on TikTok too much, and everyone
Yeah,
has.
you can actually see murder on my channel because I
Okay,
I
good.
can't with the bullshit unalive. I'm sorry. We already know about that. I'm not going to get on a soapbox again. That's interesting. I heard nothing about this theory, nothing at all. So
Yeah,
that's super interesting.
yeah. It's I tried to look it up, and it's only recently, and I'm talking 6 8 months ago when people were talking about it, but I couldn't really find the actual killings. But
Were they
yeah,
stabbed? Were they stabbed to death too, or were they?
yeah, stabbed and late at night, and multiple wounds in the chest, neck,
Hmm.
arms. But it looks like the attorney work they did was the wife humanitarian, but the husband was the administrative hearing officer for police cases gone bad.
Oh, that's so interesting. See,
Yeah,
and that's what I mean. Like this case pulls in everywhere. It's like all these different things, and it's like it's not hard to sort. I mean, we all have our imaginations going because we all want to know why. Really, why is the big thing, right? Why? Even more than who, in a
yeah,
way, is why, you
yeah.
know.
It would have helped if they didn't make Brian out to be the stalker of the century, and then later on, oh, he's really not that. It was a lie.
Yeah, there's no proof of that. And even I don't know if you've ever watched Forensic Frenzy, but she did an interview recently. It was actually really good, of the guy who put out the original report. I'm blanking on the name of it. I did a video on it, and it escapes me right now, but it's a company that basically is able to, you put somebody's information in, and then it creates this net where, you find out their associations and all these different things. And they did that with Brian Koberger. And if you look at the report, it's really just, I think, odd, because it just shows him following a bunch of sort of, I think, like East Asians and bow-legged stuff. And then, yes, like apparently he followed Santa, or he followed Kaylee and Maddie. But the thing about it is, we don't know when he started following them, right? And even the guy himself can't tell you when. So if he followed Kaylee and Maddie, it could have been after the murders, which a ton of people did. I'm not following them, but I know I've watched tons of their video. I just think it's weird to follow them, um,
Yeah,
posthumously, but you can't know when he followed them, and so that doesn't really even prove anything. And that's not stalking anyway. You can follow people. You're not
yeah,
stalking someone by following them, right?
yeah. And then we thought there was going to be some meeting, and people went as far as saying that either Emma or Maddie and Kaylee were at that pool party. That's not true. Then they said he was antisocial. Well, he got
Hmm.
two women's phone numbers at the pool party, and
Hmm.
then they strategically released his alibi which was probably smart. Um,
Yeah.
and as soon as Wawa Park came out, then Maddie got a ticket there once.
Oh,
So
I didn't hear that. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
yeah, I think she got a DUI there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that see, I think that's the big party spot when you see all these people jumping in the lake and doing flips and frats out there. I
Hmm.
think that's the place, but I'm not sure. It's beautiful. I've seen stuff online. It's gorgeous. I could see why somebody went there.
People are going off on my whole thing about his traffic stop. Wait, let me read this. This is like that's why he tripped out and asked the finance cop lady. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is a good question here. This is another one. Where is the DNA in the Elantra? Exactly. And that's the other piece. These people that are just like convinced that Koberger is guilty. I don't understand when there's no, they said in court documents, right? They said in court documents, there's no blood evidence in the Elantra, and there's no evidence that it was cleaned up. That's the more important piece of that, right?
Exactly. Like, remember they said that we're going to get a petri dish of bio evidence in the car. It'll be a moving petri dish, is what mainstream media was saying.
Yeah, it's interesting to pull up some of those old interviews and watch how they were like, oh, when we get this car, like you're gonna just see all this evidence. I can't believe it's gonna be blah blah blah. And then they quietly let us know that there's nothing. Like there's just nothing, right? And
I really think they just have a story that started to make sense, and they went with it because they had nothing else,
mhm,
and
yeah.
they're going to lose based
The
on
thing
that.
the thing about it is, the other big question is then why? Why him? Like if he wasn't even technically in the area, right? If we're going to say his alibi is to believe that he was in Hawaii Park, then how is he tied into this at all? And then that, of course, is the touch DNA, right? Which is really flimsy evidence. If that's all you have, right? I mean, what else do they have?
I don't think they have anything. I think that the rest was um, they elaborated a lot. I mean, people are saying that there's some camera footage up on the Queen Road apartments, number 52 or something. That
Hmm.
that's still yet to come. But if it's the same white vehicle, then that's not him.
Right, right, right.
And poor
And
Brian may have not been involved at all. And the IgG, I feel like, is so unscientific.
mhm.
It could be anybody's skin cells.
Well, I think for me the interesting part about the IgG and the whole build out of the family tree and stuff is, he does have um a lot of the family, his father's family is in Vegas. Okay. I don't know if you like how much you went into his family history, but he has some cousins, that some of his cousins look like him, a little bit like him. And I just wonder, now they're saying this DNA is like whatever percentage it is, the the son of this person's DNA, because it was Michael Koberger's DNA that they got in the trash, right? But I mean, is it possible that it's some family member or something that's out in that area? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I'm so mistrusting of them now that I think now they kind of, and research, psych research, and scientific research has to be put together appropriately from the beginning.
Yes.
Can't be a bad hypothesis or a bad strategy. So I think that's where Ann Taylor was going. It's like, wait a minute, what? How did you get to Brian in the first place? And then you're backflipping to his DNA, and
Right, and that's what it seems like it is, right? It's just very odd. And then the other thing to me that's super odd, just going back over stuff is, why are they following him across the country to Pennsylvania and like getting this shit done there? like I don't understand, why did they wait until, because we know there are court documents that show that he was interviewed by Officer Payne. And it's one of those things that's forgotten a lot, but I put it in one of my videos recently. When we don't know what happened in that interview and when it was, right? But if they were interviewing him then, you know what I'm saying? Like, what happened in that interview with him and Officer Payne?
That happened in Pullman or all the way
I
up?
don't know. All I know is that for sure, I'm guessing in Moscow, because, you know, Payne is a Moscow PD. And I'm not, and the reason I'm so certain this happened is because I learned about it however many months ago, watching The Lawyer You Know. You know, he's a lawyer, he's going over court documents. And I have a quote in one of my videos recently where he says, "Oh, well, this is interesting. Here we go." When Brian Koberger was interviewed by Officer Payne, he was interviewed by Payne. And nothing has been ever said about any of that. Isn't that strange?
That is very strange. I guess I was under the impression that that happened in Pennsylvania, and Payne didn't get very much out of him. He asked for an attorney, and then the rest is rumor. You know, like
But
remember
when he was in Pennsylvania, I don't think Payne. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't believe that Payne would be calling him up over the phone or whatever. And
no,
he's got.
Payne, after Payne flew out there on the private plane and
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so then there you go. That's a good point. That's very possible then.
yeah.
That's very possible.
Well, maybe I should jump down and give someone else a chance to talk, and I can say
Okay.
comments. And if nobody wants to, I can come back up. But this was very fruitful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. It was great to talk to you. Really nice talking to you. All right, take care. So that was Michael Wimmer. Anybody else want to come on up? I can drop the link here if anybody wants to talk. Let me get another invite. So yeah, I'm not sure when that was, you know, it's like just a bunch of guesses as usual. But I just remember them saying that there was here. What's it say? FBI doesn't conduct phone interviews. Yeah, I mean, but this was Officer Payne that supposedly did the interview. That's what it says in the court document. So it's Moscow PD. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. It's just another one of those unknowns in this case that's enough to make people crazy. Yes, thank you very much for your thoughts, Michael. Eric, how you doing, Eric? Let's see, what do we got over here? I still think this was the result of family members ratting out people, and this was the revenge for that, in my opinion. That's interesting. I need to know more about it. I mean, it sounds like an interesting theory. It's good as any other in this case. One interview with Payne and one, okay, with an FBI agent. Okay. So I'm wondering if that was before or after his arrest. I guess after his arrest, right? I guess that, because if they don't know, they had to track him across the country to Pennsylvania. That was the part that was weird to me. You know, and I read how they did it and how it was all last minute, and you know, they identified the car, and at WSU they suddenly put all the pieces together at once, and then suddenly like he's leaving the state, and I get it, but it just, I mean, sure, is it possible? It's just another unusual thing. I watched a video with Pab, I believe, just the other day about the DNA in the interview and why they waited until he went to PA before they obtained his DNA. I'll have to go check that out, Maury. He had one interview before he went to Pennsylvania. That's interesting. Yeah, the timeline to me is just so odd, you know. And if you remember in the beginning, the timeline was 3 a.m. was between 3 and 4. And then after Truth and Transparency got I mean, it just coincidentally, obviously, but after we found out that there was this alcohol offense on the field and we got all the body cam from that, then they moved it back to after 4 o'clock. And so that was really interesting because the original timeline was between 3 and 4. And they had to have known they had officers out there like a block away or less during that time frame making, handing out tickets. They had to know that when they said the time frame was between 3 and 4. It's not like they didn't know. It's not like it's some huge police force out there. And so, that to me is very, I mean, this is how I got sucked in, right? This is how I got sucked in. And, because of so many unanswered questions. And, it's just strange, guys. It's just really strange. And I really am looking forward to getting some answers on this. I don't know. The other thing is, Brian Koberger, when they go and they interview some of his friends and stuff, the way that they try to paint it is so shitty. You know what I mean? Like, the news is definitely not objective. They're very much, they tend to always be in favor of the prosecution in the state, which makes sense because most of it is just state sponsored anyway. Yeah. On purpose to weed out false confessors. That's a good point. Definitely. That's a possibility. And they changed the timeline to 50K. That's another possibility. Oh, why is it not doing? There we go. Right. And during that stuff, the body cam shows the figures. Yeah, I mean, that was crazy too, right? The way that they said, it was just like a quiet night. Remember that? Pian says it's just a quiet night. It's not a quiet night. And you just forget about Linda Lane if you don't want to believe that's real or whatever, right? Forget about that. There was shit going down on that night, right? Like there was people out and about. And it did seem, I mean, at least the cars and stuff were real on Linda Lane. There's a lot of people pulling in and out and stuff in that area back there. So I don't know. I'd really like to see the area. I'd really like to go there and visit and see the area. And then them tearing down the house, I think, is another. I don't know. Look, I don't live in the town, obviously, right? I'd like to know what the people in the town think about that house. Was it such a scourge that it had to be torn down before the trial? I feel like that was a bad move. It's good for the defense, but I think it was a bad move for the prosecution to tear down that house. It's I don't understand that. I thought that was very strange. What do you guys think about that? Stacy Chapin stated that the girls heard male voices yelling. I remember that. I remember this actually. Nina, I remember this about the furniture being moved or something and fighting. Absolutely. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that's why it's so fascinating to go back and look again at like some of this stuff that, we forget about, and then we go back and we look again. So it's interesting to go back and see some of the stuff we've forgotten. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's just an odd thing to get rid of the crime scene like that. And I understand that people are going to say, in the town they couldn't stand to look at this house, et cetera, et cetera. But this is, I think John Benet Ramsey's house is still up to this day, right? And their Amityville Horror house is still standing, right? Um, I think Cielo Drive is still standing. I mean, these things need to stay in place at least until the trial. It was shocking to me that they wanted to tear it down so quickly. The other thing that's really weird, how about this? That it was gifted to the University of Idaho. Some people say to Scott Green, but I don't know if that's certain or not, but he's the president, so whatever. But it was just here, take this house. We don't want it anymore. Why did they do that? Like, okay, was it because of liability purposes? I don't understand. Like when you have a house and you have homeowners insurance because you're renting it out, that's your liability insurance. So why are you like immediately gifting this property to the university? Why? What did you want from the university in exchange for your gift? Because that house, if not the house, the property is valuable in that it's very close to the university and it's an easy rental for many years to come, right? So, like, why are you, number one, like immediately gifting this house? And what is it you want in exchange for it? Because you're not just going to gift your property, are you? I mean, there could be a perfectly logical explanation, but it's just one more thing that's like, why? Right? I'm not gifting any house. My niece just got here coughing. That house was like, what's it say? That house was like cardboard. You would hear everything. Yeah, I've heard that it was like the way that it was repurposed or whatever, that it was kind of shoddy. Um, and that's the other thing, like how do people not hear what's happening? How do people not hear? And what about this? You know, the car that was supposedly Brian Koberger's car, when you watch it, or not when you watch it, when I read it in the PCA, the way that they were describing this car, driving up and down the road and then pulling like kind of slightly into the driveway of 1122 and then leaving. Like, if you're about to commit a mass murder, this doesn't seem very smart. And granted, people can say, well, you're murdering people, you're psychotic or whatever. But that's in it, like if you're in a fit of rage, like if you're in a fit of passion, it's a crime of passion. Like you're outraged, like your wife is in there cheating on you or whatever, right? And you're going to go in there and do this. But there's no indicators that that's why this was done if it's Brian Koberger. So why is he acting like a DoorDash driver or somebody who's lost looking for 1122 King Road? Why is that car that they're claiming is his behaving like someone who put that into their GPS and it's like, where the heck is this place? I can't find it. Because that's what it sounded like from the jump to me when I read the PCA and they were describing his car. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, this sounds like somebody who's trying to find an address on the GPS that's King Road, but it's really Queen Road. But actually, it's really street. Isn't it really Queen Street? It's not even Queen Road. It's just weird. It's just weird. I just don't picture some like mastermind who's going to be able to commit this murder in 9 minutes to really like be driving up and down the road and not even knowing where the driveway was. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. Maybe that's not the car they're saying was his, but from what I remember, that was his car. That was the car they were saying is his. It was him. It just seems odd. Before we found out who it was, before they arrested, when I say who it was, before they arrested Brian, right? I thought in my mind, like, I'm just thinking, like, what happened there? Like, who did this? I was trying to think of like why this would have happened. And, just like looking into things and everything, I distinctly remember feeling like this was someone that was in the military. I don't know about you guys. I think it had to do something with the sheath, and it had to do with some of the information. I don't know where it's coming out about like the ROTC program there. And then also the fact that they were claiming it happened so quickly. And I remember thinking, like, this is the kind of operation that people who are trained to kill pull off in 9 minutes or whatever it is, 10 minutes, 9 minutes. That is a trained killer. And the government has a lot of those, right? And we know they do. Unfortunately, whether you like it or not, your tax dollars pay for them to go and do this all over the world. They get in and they get out real quick, right? And I just remember feeling like this was something like that. No proof as to why or whatever. This is just me like spitballing, but I just remember thinking it seemed like this is someone who was trained to kill, because that's a really short amount of time to pull off that amount of violence if it happened that quickly for one person. And I didn't even think it was one. I thought it was two people. That's like in my mind, just sketching it out. Now, clearly, I didn't go to school for this. I'm not Catherine Ramsland. I'm not an FBI profiler or any of this other stuff. I don't know. What did you guys think? Like, did you guys have in your mind like what you imagined this was? Yeah. Yeah. Super soldiers. And they have that voice to skull technology now. They have all kinds of really scary stuff. Really scary stuff. But even so, even when I was thinking about that, couldn't come up with a reason why they would want to do this to these children, because that's what they were. They were children. It's devastating. You thought it was a Mean Girls attack. It was multiple, and that they had killed before. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, women can be vicious. They may just do the panel channels on YouTube and stuff, but we know in real life women are killers. They can do it. Yeah, it just seems really unlikely, right, Rachel? Good point. Yeah, and there you go. Yet another thing that it causes issues with this, right? I remember at first, finding out that they waited until noon the next day to make the call. And I remember saying, oh, well, they're college kids. They were out partying. They're sleeping it off the next morning, right? That makes total sense, right? But when I found out like how it all went down, that they were stabbed and that they're claiming it's one person that did this, then I was like, no way. No way. If you're going to say it's one person that did this, then so, and that's why they have to say they were asleep, right? But even if people are asleep, can you really, one person, you're not a trained killer, and you go in there and it's got to be Ethan and Xana first. And I get it. It can happen quickly depending on the body parts and stuff. The kill points, I get all that, right? But even if you do that, right, there's going to be some kind of noise. We even hear, not on the Linda Lane footage, but there was other footage that was, I don't know if it was leaked or if it was real or whatever, but I just remember it being like a thud. No, I think it actually was real because they talk about it somewhere, maybe in the PCA, where there was a thud and a dog barking and a yell or something. If you can hear that on the Ring camera outside, how come Bethany and Dylan did not hear that inside? How come they didn't hear it inside? And how come Kaylee and Maddie didn't hear it upstairs and be like, what the hell's going on? Let's not forget there was a dog in the house. Anybody here with dogs? If there's noises around the house or in the house at nighttime, my dogs are going to bark. It's part of the reason why you have a dog. They alert you. Shit is popping off. There's something going on. So not only did Dylan and Bethany not hear anything, you're going to tell me that Murphy heard nothing either. And Murphy was just sleeping it off too. He didn't even bark and alert his owner. You could say, okay, but he was in the other room. Even if he was in the other room, I could put my dog in another room and shut the door. And if he's barking, going off, I'm going to hear it in this room. And if somebody is killing somebody, he's going to notice. He's going to keep barking. Why was that dog not barking? I mean, there's only a couple explanations, right? Why they didn't hear it. They weren't there. They just weren't there. You know, if you remember, Nick Rabus was the guy's name on Facebook. And he said, way back in the beginning of this case, probably something he regrets at this point, that he said, oh, my photography team, and he was like an actual person. He wasn't sketching as far as I know. It was like he was on the University of Idaho Facebook webpage. I don't know, something like that. I remember looking at it and saying, I believe this person. Nick Rabus, he said, my photography club has a video camera or a camera set up in the backyard over there. And people were like, what? That's weird. Why? And he was like, well, I can't really discuss what it's about, but we do live streams or something. I don't know. So then he said something about that they saw somebody running from the house around like 2ish or 2:30ish and jumping into a truck, running outside the back of the house, running down the driveway on the side, the right side, closer to the Linda Lane apartment buildings, and getting into a big truck, a girl running and leaving. Do you guys remember that? Now I know, like Idaho Fish and Wildlife or whatever, they have cameras set up in different areas. That would be a weird spot for them to have a camera set up, but that's to locate like wild animals, to kind of keep track of things in the area, that might cause harm. To say a dog like the one that got skinned down the road at the neighbor's house, there's nothing to do with this case. They ruled that out immediately. Remember? Like they ruled this, some of the stuff they ruled out immediately, and how they did it so quickly. Oh, okay. There we go. He admitted he made it up and removed his post. Interesting. Okay. People are such idiots. Like, why do they do stuff like this? So wait here, hold on. What do we have here? Would you think a dog barking and someone crying means a murder? No, I don't necessarily think it means a murder, but if I was in the house, I would probably go and check on my friends and ask them why they're crying. I don't know. So do you believe, Viviana, do you believe that Brian Koberger is guilty? Like, are you convinced that he's guilty, or are you on the fence, or what are your thoughts? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. That's something that's been bothering me it's been in the back of my mind for so long. Like what? Like why do people do shit like that? Like can they not? Thank you, Nina. You believe he's guilty. Um, and is it just like what are the main thing? Is it the DNA and um I'm guessing it's like the DNA evidence and the I'm trying to think what else they have. I know it's the DNA. Um Honestly don't remember the other stuff they have. And I'm not trying to be facetious whatsoever. It's just I'm trying to think about what else they actually have on him. Oh, I that's right. Dylan says the bushy eyebrows, but I feel like that's kind of I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of flimsy, yeah, bushy eyebrows. Um, hey Leslie. Hey girl. This is my second live, Leslie, because the first one went crazy. Like I invited Kane up on here and I don't know what he did, but we entered the twilight zone. So yeah, I had to like shut that one down. Okay, DNA and info from people I spoke to before the gag order. Okay, I mean, fair enough. I don't know who you spoke to, but if you have some kind of inside scoop and that's why you feel that way, I mean, that's cool. I wish I was able to talk to people before the gag order. um, no, don't be sorry. No need for that. They don't have anything other than touch DNA. Yeah. Kelly says hi, Leslie. Yeah. No, I mean, all right, here we go. Yeah, no, that's all I care about, honestly. Like somebody thinks he's guilty, somebody thinks he's not guilty. It's just more or less a matter of talking, just talking. We're talking about it. I'm not I don't like this. Like I said, I don't have a horse in the race here. And I don't think really anybody should, honestly, unless you're a family member or something. For me, I think what bothers me so much about this case was like, um, what bothers me so much about the case is how little information has been given out for such a brutal slaying. And, you know, trying to think of something else that like makes it easier, like the TikTok murders, right? Remember the TikTok guy that murdered his wife and her boyfriend or friend in cold blood? The guy who like did all the imitations of Al Pacino and stuff. Like that was obvious, right? Like the guy, like they caught him. That's who did it, right? It's pretty much open shut. If I was on the jury, I would still give him the benefit of the doubt, because when they went to trial, I think it wasn't even about if he killed or not. It was more or less of the degree of the murder. But regardless, I'm willing to listen, right? But in this case, it's just such little bullshit. And then the stuff that they give us turns out not to be true. And I think, at this time in our history, many people are tired of being, snowed of just lies. And so I think that's why people are more skeptical of it. And they really haven't given us much. So that's why I think there's so much interest here, right? I mean, there's just so much interest. I think it would have been of interest no matter what, but the fact that it's just such flimsy evidence, honestly, like the touch DNA is not enough, because even if it's there, if it's real, it you don't know when it got there. And yeah, it makes sense, like it's on a sheath and they were killed by a knife, so yeah, like Occam's razor, right? But for me, here's the other thing: Idaho has a death penalty. And to me, that means they have to be sure that they have the right person. I personally wouldn't be able, I wouldn't get picked to be on a jury in Idaho because I wouldn't be able to put someone to death. There's no way. I could convict someone of murder or being guilty of something, but I could not convict them to be put to death. So I'd be kicked off the jury. I was on a jury. I was on a jury, and it was a murder trial, actually. And but in the state I did the jury duty in, there's no death penalty, so I got chosen. And it's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of responsibility to be a juror. um Sending someone to jail, but you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. And if I'm honest, the prosecution did a few little dirty tricks during the trial that I was a part of, that I was a jury member of. But ultimately, he was guilty. We all pretty much agreed on that. But we spent an extra day sleeping on it, and just to be extra careful or whatever, I really did follow the instructions. Like, I did not go home and read about the case. I did not talk to anybody about the case. And when you're on the jury, you're not allowed to talk to the other jury members. So, like, you can go out to lunch with a fellow jury member, but you cannot talk about the case. You're not allowed to talk about the case until the closing arguments are done, and then you go back into deliberation, and then you can talk about the case. And so you have to really follow that. And I followed it. And I like to believe that all jurors follow it, because truthfully, you don't want to have that on your head if you don't follow that and you go and look and you find something out. I don't want that. I wouldn't want that on my conscience, So the DNA that was submitted asking for it not to be submitted as trial evidence and submitted by Wash Cup after his apartment search. Not sure I follow exactly what you're saying, Rollo, but I bet you it's brilliant, and I'm not being facetious. Yeah, Leslie, exactly. I believe they do. I really do. Unlike some people, I mean, I really give people that benefit of the doubt. I also think attorneys, when they do voir dire, are really good at picking people who are going to do that. They've been doing that a long time, prosecutors and criminal defense attorneys, and they've got an instinct as to the type of people that they want on the jury. Let's see. Let's see here. No way one person did this alone. I think a lot of us feel that way, for sure. It was submitted by Dawn Daniels, not Brett Payne. What was submitted by Dawn Daniels, not Brett Payne? I did see Dawn Daniels, the Pullman report, the search warrant. I believe you. I mean, I agree, but I just don't know what was submitted. Let's see. Well, presumption of innocence, yes. Yes. Presumption of innocence. Anybody want to come up? I can drop a link here. Sorry, guys, I'm getting a little tired. This is me zoning out. Here, I'm gonna add the invite one more time just before I decide to, in case anybody wants to come up. Robin, how you doing, Robin? That's fine. You can come. You can go. No, nobody is. There's no pressure here. I just don't have to be the only person talking. It's all I'm saying. Like anybody's welcome to come up and talk and share, and they don't have to agree with what I'm saying. In fact, I think it's nice to talk about the other side, and we've all been fooled with all kinds of things, right? So um oh yeah, good night, Maury. Thanks for coming. Absolutely. Yeah, this is a good point, actually. This is interesting, Mr. Sentinel. Yeah. I did a video on this a long time ago, but yeah, there have been a few. There have been a few. I think like four, maybe. Including the lead homicide detective who was originally assigned to this has retired. Which, okay, fair enough. You could say, well, what do you expect? The guy was going to retire and he's supposed to wait until the trial and yada 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 yada. Well, some people might say yes if it's like one of the biggest cases in his career, maybe. But I'm not saying he should or has to. Um, but there have been a few, and I know there's a big question mark about Officer Rosendahl. There's always been this stuff clouding around him or whatever. I have no opinion on that. But nobody seems to be able to find him. He may still be an officer there. I don't know. But there have been a few. I know one of the officers transferred to the Idaho um, Fish and Wildlife or something. So they've either retired or transferred out or something like that. And even the main guy, the main officer, what was his name? Uh, I'm blanking on his name. I know it's not Fry. It's not Chief Fry. It's the captain. That guy, he's gone. He left too. He went back to like his old jurisdiction. He left. So yeah, I mean there's been a lot of rearranging. But I also think they have a high turnover rate there to begin with. If you look at the history there, there's a high turnover rate. So but I also think that's in a lot of police departments right now, unfortunately. Crepwell, it might be something like that. I can't remember exactly. Uh, Fry, Green, Barrett, and a few more. Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, it's normally after 25 years. Oh, Tyson. Yeah, this guy here, Tyson Barrett, was the campus officer. Is that who it was? I thought it was that guy. He was like a really big guy. He was kind of balding. He drove a motorcycle. I don't know. He's like an older guy. That's who I thought it was. But I honestly, I haven't looked at the officers in so long. So you're probably right. I honestly can't remember. Yeah, it is almost sleepy time. I agree. um, let's see. It's a guy that put out the initial. I did research on Post woke. I sent you some receipts in email. Oh, yes, Nina, I'll take a look. Thank you. I will. I'm sorry. I'm so bad with my email. That's why I really generally just don't give it out. But but I will take a look, Nina. I appreciate you being here. Lanier, that's it. That's one of the ones I was trying to think of. Thank you. I can't remember. You know what? I honestly, my mind has like, there's so much information. Oh, which brings me to my point. We are going to do a trivia. We are going to do an Idaho 4 trivia. Um, all in good taste, guys, all in good taste. But there are so many of us that have so much like little nitty gritty information about this tucked away in the caves of our brain. So I thought it would be fun to do a trivia on the Idaho 4. I'm just trying to figure out how to structure it. I've already got like 40 questions, and one of my mods, Leslie, also has made up some questions. And yeah, so if you guys are down for that or interested in it, that should be fun. I'll put a little, I will put you know, a, I'm starting to get too tired to even talk. I can't even talk anymore. I'm going to put an ad out, for when we're going to do it. Okay. The trivia, and all are welcome. And, too many coincidences. Yeah. The Oregon Elantra was like really weird too. Right. Like yet another coincidence in this case. Right. Just like really weird. And they just shut down that really quickly. So, oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. I know what I wanted to talk about. Brat Norton. That's what I wanted to talk about. Brat Norton. You guys remember her? Brat Norton? Uh, I'm getting drunk on too much info. Yeah. Yeah, I don't drink, guys. I'm not drunk. I'm just I know, why is her name Brat? I love you, Kelly. Exactly. I think her first name is actually Sydney and her last name is Norton. Yes, Brat brought us Dot. Yep. She brought us Dot. Yep. She's a brat. Yep. She's an interesting character, right? Like so all right, the reason why I brought her up is this, okay? Because we were talking about the oh my gosh, I really do need to go soon, guys, because I can't even be interesting when I can't even talk. I'm so tired. She's the one I think brought us the Linda Lane coverage. Allegedly. I don't even know for sure, right? But I feel like she's like at almost like the starting point of that Linda Lane coverage. I'm very interested in where that thing came from. She's alluded that it was actually the Gonsalves family that gave it to her. She said all kinds of crazy stuff, right? She's she yes, and she has this whole text stream with Steve Gonsalves, right? Have you guys read that? There's a whole text stream where she's going back and forth with Gonzo, which is what his name is on Facebook. Could it be fake? 100% it could be fake. Yes, it could be fake. Um, it seems like it could be real though, in which case it makes me just feel more sad for the Gonzalez family, honestly. Because it just shows that way back when in the beginning, he was just trying to figure all this out like everybody else was. It was the Powerpuffs that first had it. She was one of the killers. Oh yeah. Claire. Yeah, Claire. That's a name that's come up before. Um and okay, he gave her the still shot. Okay. Yeah, she gave info to Bloom. Definitely. Yeah, for sure. She did. Okay, Claire Mack got it. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know who that is, so but that's interesting. Is she connected with Brat in any way? Brat Norton? Um, and that's the other thing too, is like, why was she so heavily invested in this case, like from the beginning? Right? Oregon, a launcher Colorado, female tree spectral stolen car from Spokane, resold after this impound in Eugene is wild. Yeah. No, it's one of those things where, like, from an esoteric perspective, what the fuck? Right? Like, what the fuck? Claire Mack and the other chick, I can't remember the name. Okay. Yeah. I'm getting sleepy. I know, Lisa. I appreciate you guys hanging in with me. I really do. I really do. She was tight with Get a Clue. See, I'm having trouble following the chat even too. Oh, guys, I'm just so thankful for anyone who came here and listened to me. Sorry, I'm actually getting really tired, so it's night time for me. But I appreciate you all, and I hope you come join me again. And everybody, like, let's just all get along and be nice, right? We're all like, we all want the same things in life, right? And let's just pray, hope and pray for peace for all the families that have lost their children in this horrible accident and in any other way. All right, guys, just spread love and peace. Be happy. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, sweet and salty. Yes, it is about the victims. I agree. It is. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here, everybody. All right. I'm just going to put on a chill video here to send us off, guys. Bye, Kelly. Bye, everybody. Oh, I hope your mod is okay. I hope so. And thanks to my awesome mods, everybody. Leslie and Robin. Rodney King. Oh, here we go. Good night, guys. Thanks for being here.